Okay.
Okay, excellent. Jay, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Greg, and yourself? How was your week?
Very good. Very good. Apparently, the Toronto Blue Jays are doing very well, so I'm an avid fan, and I'm watching that closely.
Yeah, and Seattle just advanced in a classic game to get there. So Seattle and Toronto, they were expansion cousins in '77, and now they get to match up for the first time in the championship series,
Right.
World Series spot on the line.
I
And
did
we
not
had
know
a
that. I did not
yeah,
know that, but now I'm going to incorporate it in my encyclopedic knowledge of baseball.
excellent.
But
And we had
I did want to
yeah,
rack your brain on hockey because all good things have started, and
yeah.
hockey is on the agenda. And so I wanted your thoughts on the new season, but also wanted your thoughts on what people might look out for in the seven Canadian teams in terms of players that you're interested in or that you see have some potential, maybe a little under the radar or what have you.
Yeah, well, it's nice to finally have hockey back.
Yeah,
And yeah, it's been an interesting first few days of this season, but like you were talking about. I mean with the start of every season, you're going to have chatter about who the stars are, who all the good young players are, and there'll be plenty of other places to hear about those kind of players. But I thought it might be fun today just to talk about some of the guys who might be key to the success of the various Canadian teams, who might not get as much press or pub that they may otherwise deserve.
great. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Now, because there are seven Canadian teams, that's correct, right? Seven?
Yeah. Still
Still,
seven.
still
Quebec hasn't
seven.
gotten that team yet, and
So
Hamilton's never getting a team.
why don't we go west to east or thereabouts? And so, but I'm going to limit you to one person that catches your eye. So maybe let's
Yeah.
start with your beloved Canucks. Who do you
Oh,
think is
beloved's a strong word, but
right?
I'm a fan of the Canucks, and it's nice to actually go from west to east as opposed to the east centric focus that we often hear from our mainstream media
Right.
outlets. Vancouver, I mean, the one guy, I mean, everybody, I mean, the stars like Pedersen, Demko, Hughes, everyone's going to talk about, but I know the talk in the off season was in Vancouver was who's going to be the number two center, and
Right.
uh, Philip Hedel is the guy that that's the center they got back in the JT Miller trade, and he got hurt at the end of last year, so there's a lot of consternation as to whether or not he was going to be able to perform the sort of 2C kind of role here in Vancouver. So that's a guy that I know I'm going to be watching. We'll be talking about him here in Vancouver, but he probably doesn't get chatted a lot about in other markets.
No, not at
Um,
all.
yeah, and
How
he
what
had a
did he
really
play
good
in New
start.
York?
Oh, he was a center in New York, but he was again an off injured center, and he was probably a 3C in New York because he
Right.
was behind Zibanejad and Trocheck.
Right. Much
Um,
deeper. Right.
so he didn't get the ice time. So I think when the Canucks got him, I think Rutherford and Alvin were kind of thinking that like he has the skill set. He certainly has the speed. That's the one thing we noticed last year when he first joined the team was he was I think a lot quicker than some fans thought, and he was able to drive play a lot better than I think some people thought. So there's potential
Good.
there for him if he can perform. And he had 2 goals in the first game. Last night against Edmonton, he was a little bit quieter, and
Right.
so we're going to see. But that's one of the reasons we're going to be watching him because if he can fill that 2C role, that solves one of the big questions that the Canucks had coming into the season. And there's some optimism here now that he might, if he can stay healthy, which
Right.
is fingers crossed for everybody. But if he can stay healthy, then they might have that sort of solved internally, which would be nice.
Well, that's cool. Moving out east, we'll do Edmonton first. And even though
Yeah,
you're not going to talk about him, but McJesus signed for 2 years,
yeah.
unbelievably, with the wrong team. But as you know, a lot of the commentators have said, I mean, that's got to put Edmonton on notice. And Stuart Skinner's, I mean, oh, poor guy. He's just on the wrong team at the wrong time.
Well, we'll see. I mean, that's well, just if we're going to talk about Skinner briefly, I mean, they've apparently brought in a goalie coach in Edmonton that hopefully is going to work with him and might improve his. I mean, he's relatively young, and how many goalies can you
Yes,
sit there? How many goalies in the league? There's two goalies in the league who've been to the Stanley Cup, starting goalies who've been to the Stanley Cup in the last 2 years, and that's
carried.
Bobrovsky and Skinner.
Sure. Okay.
And I mean, well, Edmonton in both series against Dallas both years, he outplayed a Ottinger, who's probably a higher pedigree goalie, higher paid goalie.
Benched by
But
DeBoer, right?
Skinner, well, his DeBoer got fired because of his comments about Ettinger. But like he's Skinner's. It'll see. I mean, that's. I mean, we saw the first game against Calgary. What happened, and that seems to be what happens with him every night. Is there's one kind of old school or old guy word kind of bonehead kind of play
Right, right.
that he
That's
has
on Bouchard.
every week. But yeah, but
Right.
well, yeah. I mean, that's having Evan Bouchard in your back end. It's great it's great when he's in the other team zone, but having him in your defending zone is not necessarily a recipe for goaltending success. But
Who
um,
catches your eye on Edmonton as
well,
someone who's
I
under
guess
the radar?
the guy they brought in, and again, there's been probably in Edmonton, they've probably chatted about what his contribution is going to be, but I mean, last year they brought in Arvidsson and Jeff Skinner, and neither of those guys panned out. This summer,
Right.
they brought in Andrew Mangiapane from
Yeah,
Washington last year, and then he was 6 years. He was in Calgary.
Calgary, right,
I think he had a 35 goal season in Calgary one year too. So
right.
he's got a history of scoring, and I mean, if
Where does he
you're
slot in into Edmonton?
well, he should slot in on either with McDavid or with Draisaitl on one of those two wings.
Right,
Um, so it'll be interesting to see if he can sort of cement a position before Zach Hyman gets healthy and gets back. Because
right,
presumably when he gets back, uh, Mangiapane is either going to get bumped down or one of the other wingers playing. Again, they don't really have uh, stellar wingers. I mean, right now they got to think they're alternating, sometimes having Draisaitl on the wing with McDavid. Sometimes they got Draisaitl centering a line and they have Nugent Hopkins playing on the wing with him.
right.
And again, we're early in the season. And when Hyman comes back, if Mangiapane has kind of shown an ability to play
Goes down
with
to
either
two
or
F.
both of
Yeah,
those guys,
yeah,
then it gives Edmonton a lot of flexibility to put Nugent Hopkins as the third line center. And that was one of their strengths last year.
that's right.
I mean, if you've got McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent Hopkins down the middle, I mean, I mean, if you just stopped at McDavid and Draisaitl, most people don't have three centers that deep. But if you
Right,
put Nugent Hopkins as your third line center and you have that flexibility to do that, like that's where a guy like Mangiapane can give Chris Knobloch a lot of flexibility as to what he wants to do. So
right. And so
that's a guy in
Mangiapane,
Edmonton.
he would be an upgrade on both Jeff Skinner and Evander Kane, really, wouldn't he?
Well, he's a
Different
different
game,
player
but
than Kane, but I mean,
right,
he's certainly. I think he's an upgrade on what Skinner and Arvidsson offered. Like on paper, they might have looked like they'd be better fits than a guy like Mangiapane, but I think Mangiapane's got a little bit more speed. Those guys are both a little bit older.
right,
Um, but I mean, again, 6 years playing in Calgary, he's going to sort of know the Battle of Alberta rivalries. He's not going to be
right,
intimidated playing in a Canadian market. He'll be familiar with that. So
right,
I think he's from Alberta.
right,
So like him coming home, I think gives him another sort of he'll be motivated to to perform well. He kind of underperformed in Washington,
okay,
but again, like in Washington, he might have been a little bit miscast. I mean, they've really gone big. And like last year in Washington, they had a couple like Alexei Protas was a young guy who came up who kind of took a spot that was maybe on paper earmarked for Mangiapane. But I mean, Mangiapane had a goal last night and he played pretty well. He almost scored one on Calvin Pickard, but Pickard made a nice save on Mangiapane's inadvertent shot. But yeah, no, it'll be. I think it'll be interesting to see how he slots in, and if he can play well, I think that'll be a big boost for what Edmonton can do.
I saw a highlight, and I think it's recent, but your brand new Canuck, Evander, didn't he just absolute truck some defenseman behind the net? Was he at the Edmonton game?
Yeah, that was last night. It was. I think it looked worse than it actually was. It was yeah, it was behind the net, and
Yeah,
I think the guy's name was I think it
beautiful.
was a young guy named Regula who um, probably got caught in the train tracks when he shouldn't have been, and
Right,
but I mean he hopped himself up, and I think Nurse and Kane had a little old teammates hug, and they both got a 2 minute unsportsmanlike penalty because of it. But
right, right. But
um,
that's the Evander you need, right? Like you need him
well,
to lead with that.
well, they don't have. I mean, the Canucks don't have a player. They didn't have a player like that last year. They don't. He's the only kind of player they have this year. I mean, that's. I mean that hit kind of stems from on uh opening night. Or no, what night? No, sorry, it was the night the Canucks when the yeah, opening it when the Canucks played the Flames, and there were a couple. Uyghur hit Pedersen from behind into the boards,
Right.
got a 2 minute minor, and then our Elias Pedersen, the defenseman, uh, hit I think it was Connor Zary into the boards.
Okay.
Um,
The rookie.
so I mean, Elias Pettersson could, but you don't want Elias Pettersson. He's not going to be running into the zone and forechecking. He's a defenseman, so you want him hitting in his zone. But I mean, Kane's the only guy they really have who's going to be able to play with that kind of force. So
Right. Right.
hopefully he brings that to the table from
Yeah.
as a Vancouver fan.
Yeah.
But
Hopefully he stays motivated.
yeah, we should
Um,
drive down the Alberta Highway to Calgary and
yeah. Who do you
check
like?
in there. Well, there. I mean, Calgary's kind of a team in. I mean, they overperformed last year. I think they ended up being tied with St. Louis and lost the tiebreakers. They ended up coming in ninth, didn't quite make the playoffs. Um, but they're a bit odd, and they've got a few young guys coming up. They've got some old. I mean, Kadri's old. Kadri's I think 33. Backlund is 35. So their center ice position is a little bit uh, aging.
Right.
And if they're underperforming one of those guys, Backlund's not going anywhere. He just signed, but Kadri's a candidate to potentially get moved.
Right.
Um, so they've got there's a couple of young guys. I mean, Zary was one guy I just mentioned that got hit in the Vancouver game,
Right.
but when they uh, uh, when they made the trade with Philadelphia last year, one guy they got back was Morgan Frost.
Okay.
So they would have talked about him um, at the time of the trade, but again, like he's a guy that if he can perform, could end up being a second line center. Like right now, I think he's
Oh,
playing third line center with the other guy that came over, Joel Farabee, and I
okay.
think one of the other younger wingers is playing with him as well. But I mean, Morgan Frost has been sort of eyed. He was eyed in Philadelphia for years as being sort of a top six, top two center of the future in that team, and they eventually sort of got. I mean, he had a bit of an injury history, but he never sort of really panned out in Philadelphia.
Right.
So but he's paid. I think he's getting about 4.5 or $5 million a year. So it's not like he's on like a $2-3 million contract. So they should be expecting like 40, 50 to 60 points out of him.
Oh,
Probably
okay.
should be expecting 40 to 50. And if they can get 50 to 60, then he'd be really good value at that price. And it would also give them the comfort that they could maybe move on from a guy like Kadri
Right. Right.
because they do have a couple young wingers. Coming out like an opening night, a guy named Matvey Gridin scored his first goal. He's 19.
Right.
Um, so I think they need a guy like Frost. I mean, it'd just be interesting to see how he does because he has had sort of a sort of a strong prospect future in the past. So it'll be interesting to see if he's able to sort of uh, take that step forward and become the sort of number 2C that a team that like Calgary could use.
Is Toronto next? Do we no, no, no.
Well, I guess if we're
We
going
should
geographically, this is
okay.
is Toronto next? I just really want to talk about Toronto.
Right, right,
No,
right.
but there
Let's
is a
talk about
city
Winnipeg.
between Calgary and Toronto. There is another Canadian team,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
President's Choice winners,
Winnipeg is
Winnipeg.
stacked.
They well,
Who are you gonna pick here to watch for? Because they've got a big team.
well, I mean, President's Choice winners last year, not President's Choice. President's Choice is there's free plug for Galen Weston because Galen
Right.
Weston needs free stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
the bread fixing master. Right.
the the I mean, Winnipeg's an older team, and I mean they lost Nikolai Ehlers to free agency.
That's right.
He went to Carolina,
Connor
so
re-upped.
Connor re-up nice. Was he 8 year, 96 million? Was that 12 million a year? That's a
Right, right,
pretty good chunk of change for him. So he's doing well. So
right,
yeah, we're not going to talk about the first line guys like Velarde, Scheifele, Connor,
right,
Josh Morrissey on defense. Like those are the stars that are going to carry that team.
right.
But they're really going to need somebody to step forward, I think, and be like second line uh second line scoring, and we're not going to. I don't think Jonathan Toews was signed, but he's not going to do anything. The guy that I'm going to kind of be watching, and he's a little bit older, but he's not old for that team, is like Alex Iafallo. He came
Oh,
over.
yes. Yeah.
He came over from Los Angeles with Velarde and the deal that sent Dubois to Los Angeles.
Yes.
A deal that's really looking good for Winnipeg now because Velarde is looking like he's going to be a star.
Right.
And
And
but Iafallo
Dubois
is
was
always
just, he was
well,
skating in quicksand. Yeah.
well. I mean, Dubois is on his fourth team. He had a really good year in Winnipeg or Washington last year, but he's on his fourth team already. So,
Right.
but Iafallo's 31, but he's still. I mean, on that team, like I don't think any of their top nine guys, or I think the youngest guy they got is 27.
Okay.
And they just brought back Jonathan Toews, who's what 37.
Right.
Um, so I mean,
Yeah.
they're
Taves is
they're
going to have a hard time lasting the whole year.
well, yeah, but it's good he's in Winnipeg. I mean, he can play a third line
That's right.
center, even a fourth line center role on insulated minutes. Like they're not calling on him to necessarily, like they're probably calling on him to bring sort of that intangible leadership that might help get them
Right.
further in the playoffs.
Right. Right.
Because they've stalled in the second round a couple times now.
Yeah.
And that division that is going to be, I mean,
So,
Dallas, Colorado,
yes.
Minnesota. I mean, that division is going to be a bit of a gauntlet to get into the top three. So having a guy like Taves providing some leadership isn't a bad thing.
Right.
But I don't think they're looking for him for scoring. But a guy like Iafallo, he was productive in Los Angeles, and again, it's similar to like Hedel in Vancouver, where he was stuck on a team where he's playing in a third line role. He came to Winnipeg last year, was still in a third line role because he was behind Ehlers. But there's a chance for him. I think he's playing second line wing minutes right now. I know he had a power play goal the other night, so he's playing in that role that maybe Ehlers was playing last year. Now he doesn't have the scoring touch or the speed, but I mean,
Yeah.
if
He
he's going
can't
to bring a
replace him.
little bit of, but if he can sit there and tick up from say 15, if he can get like 25 goals this year, if he gets
Right.
more playing time, that's a
Big chunk though.
possibility. But there's a guy again, like if if he can't fill that role and Winnipeg wants to compete with the Dallas and the Colorado uh, opponents in that division, they're gonna need somebody to step up. And if he can step up, they might not need to be panicked to go out and find us another scoring winger
Right. Right.
in that by the trade deadline. But if he doesn't, then it might uh, they might end up having to look at what their options are. Uh,
Winnipeg, great team. Good. Moving east. Oh my God. Toronto.
yeah,
Toronto would be next.
geographically the next team.
That's right.
Um, and there's a couple again, like I mean, the up front they're loaded with stars that we're not going to spend time
They
sort of
looked
talking
terrible
about.
yesterday against Detroit, didn't they? Holy
Well,
cow.
they didn't look great against Montreal either.
That's right.
I mean,
AHL team style. I don't know. I guess heavy means slow and out of position.
well, maybe Craig Berube's teams are second half teams. I don't know. It's but I mean now's the time again. Like this is like the first half of the season here, or at least the first 20-25 games. Like trying to assess similar to what happened. Like, it's not similar. It's even sort of more exaggerated than Winnipeg losing Ehlers. I mean, Toronto
Yeah.
lost Marner. So
Yeah, yeah.
how are they replacing
Yeah,
like
yeah,
not
yeah.
just Marner's scoring, but what
Yeah.
does Marner do for Matthews? What does Marner's do on the PK? Like, is there somebody they're gonna look at? I mean, I know we say we were gonna sort of focus on one guy in Toronto. There's a couple forwards that I'd be looking at. I mean, I know that I mean Nick Roy was
Right.
the 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 big player recovered in the Marner trade.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, he was the highlight of that package, so it's
yeah,
pretty good
but
for us.
I think he's been has he been relegated to sort of fourth line center minutes? Like his ice time, he hasn't been playing more than 11, 12 minutes in either of the two games. I thought he might be having a bigger role.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the other guy I'd be looking at is again because who's the winger that's going to be moving up into the top six, right? Like,
Right.
because I think just going back to Roy for a second, I think that they've got Domi playing third line center right now.
Yes.
So if so, Roy might not be having the impact if because initially I think when we were talking, we thought Roy might be the third line center, but if he's relegated to the fourth line center, I'd be looking and saying who's going to be the winger. Michelli's who they got from Utah. Um,
He's supposed to be one
is
F.
he's I think he's playing with Matthews and Knies, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yep.
Um, but Bobby McMahon, who had a pretty good
Right.
first half last year, he kind of tailed off.
Right.
He's a little bit of a older in quotation marks prospect, but he's a bit of a this is last year was kind of his first full year up with the
Second.
Leafs, I
Yeah.
think.
Right.
Well,
Right.
I think he had a sort of he had a taste in 22, 23. Last year was 23, no, 20, 23, 24.
Right.
Then last year he had a regular role and he was really, really good the first half of the season. Then he
Yes.
kind of tailed off. And I think they're giving him a shot right now, like
Two
at
F. Yeah.
with isn't he's playing with Tavares and Nylander, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah. He's got
there's a
all the
guy,
tools. It's just
is he gonna be able to stick in that role?
yeah.
Um,
Well,
is he? I mean, because if he can't, again, do they have to go out and find somebody? They don't really have a prospect coming up. Nick Robertson, I think, is playing third line wing, and I just don't know if he has enough to sort of, if they swap those two guys out, is Robertson going to be able to play with Tavares and Nylander?
yeah, no,
You tell
Dubas did a
me.
good job clearing out the prospect cupboard prior to prior to leaving. And
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, we have no one. So
yeah,
but yeah, so it's a tough go. We this is what we have. We were planning on signing McJesus in a few months, but apparently that's not going to happen. So yeah. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see whether or not any Toronto boys want to come home for a hometown discount. Aside from that, it's just the mushy middle at this point.
yeah. But I mean, again, like McMahon's a guy again. There's similar to like Iafallo in Winnipeg. If he can solve their sort of
Yes, yeah,
second line wing issue, then they're not panicked to go out. They can sort of address other needs come the trade deadline.
yeah.
And again, both Winnipeg and Toronto, we're talking about teams that, like, if they're not in the playoffs, I think we'd both be shocked.
Right,
So
right,
they're going to be using the first half of the year to assess what are their needs going to be. And I think IFL and Winnipeg and McMahon, and again, these aren't young guys that they're hoping are going to take a step forward. These are sort of older guys. I mean, McMahon's I think 27, IFL is 31, but McMahon's 27. So he's not a prospect, but he's still fairly new to the NHL.
right.
And
I think
he's
he's a
shown
UFA
he's
this year, or yeah, coming up.
yeah, well that's the other thing is that I mean, if is he the kind of guy that they're going to use some of their surplus money to keep around? Um, so I mean, lots of things for Brad Treliving to look at and Toronto. That's the guy that I'm going to be looking going like, hey, how is he doing? Because again, it trickles down to somebody else from internally have to move up if he can't handle it.
Right.
And again, he looked good the first half of last year,
Yeah, yeah.
and
He's got all the tools. I
yeah,
watched him
so
for a couple of years in the AHL. It was just a little bit like a man playing with boys along the boards. Like he was quick off the mark, so he had the foot speed, but also around the boards. Like guys were bouncing off him. It was quite nice to see. And then he came up and he could hold his own. So yeah, he's a good player, but yeah, who knows? Who knows?
well,
He had long stretches last year, even in the second half on good lines, but couldn't quite make the play or whatever.
yeah, well, and that may be again like having had a full year last year. Is he going to be able to sort of take that next step and sort of be like more consistent and just
Right.
bring again like he brought points, he brought goals the first half of the season I recall last year, but I mean the second half he just like you're saying he was maybe inconsistent or
Right.
was just not quite connecting, and that's perhaps just learning again what the next stage of the league is like.
And the next two teams, the future is bright in the East, and brighter as you go further. So Ottawa is neither here nor there. They're a good team, and but Montreal, it pains me to say, but Montreal, holy crap, their future looks bright. But let's start with Ottawa. Who do you like in Ottawa that maybe doesn't get a ton of press?
Well, and he probably should get more press, and he had a really good first game of the season. I think he had a couple goals. It was Shane Pinto.
Right.
So like
He's
they
been
had high
around for
hope.
a while, hasn't he?
Well, like he's been the third line center there for like at least a couple years.
Okay.
Last year, I know he was hurt the first half of the year, and he sort of came on the second half. I think he also had a little bit of suspect. He had a bit of uh, someone used his gambling account in quotation marks. It's not Otani level kind of conspiracy, but I
How
think
did
he
I
had
miss that?
a buddy of his used his gambling account to
Right.
gaming account and play some bets that he probably shouldn't have placed.
Who
So
was the Ottawa player a few years ago in black and white on an Uber video where he talked openly about a crappy coach in an Uber
I
car?
think that might have been Pinto as well.
Was that seriously Pinto?
I think I can't recall. I think it might have been, or he might have been
Okay.
the other guy in there. Um, but Pinto's a guy again. Like I mean, like you got Tim Stutzla there. You've got right now it's Dylan Cousins. Previously, they had what's his name, Josh Norris,
Right.
who they traded to Buffalo. Who's I think he's recently gone down again with I think Lindy Ruff said he's going to miss significant time. So his his injury history is I think last year it was the third game of the season when he got hurt in Ottawa. Uh, this year was I think the second game of the season for Buffalo. Might have been the first game where he gets hurt. So
Okay.
his injury history is not great. But Pinto has been behind a couple like higher ranked centers, so he's been their third line center, and he's been productive in that role. Um, but I mean, if he can sort of like again take that another step forward and instead of being sort of a 40-point guy becomes sort of a 50-55 point guy, it'll
Right.
give them lots of flexibility up and down the lineup. It also provides some insulation if something happens to Stutzla or something happens to Cousins.
Right. Right.
Cousins plays a rough and tumble kind of game, so
Right.
if he's out there hitting guys, the chance of getting hurt, like even he misses a few games.
Ooh.
Pinto looks like the kind of guy who's got the skills to be a number two center,
Right.
and he can drive a line. So if he's able to do that, um, again, he's not Stutzla, Kachuk, Cousins, Batherson, Jake Sanderson's making a name. Thomas Chabot makes lots of money. So you're talking like he's going to be the seventh, eighth, ninth guy that's going to get talked about in Ottawa,
Right.
but he could end up having more value to that team. Again, by providing insulation for the other two centers. And if they're having a bad night, like Travis Green can swap guys out and give Pinto a run up at the second line or that whole line. Because I mean, I think he's playing with Ridley Grigg, who's another sort of young guy in Ottawa that's sort of been talked about as having a really bright future, and he played really well again last year. If those two guys can sort of fill a third line role where they're kind of not even a third line, but it's like a like a second line.
Right. Right. Right.
So if they have an above average third line that is going to be able to go out and beat every other team's third line on most nights, that's how they're going to take that step forward. Like I think Ottawa is going to end up being top three in that division this year. Like I think that
Yeah.
they're going to end up being ahead of Montreal when everything's said and done this year.
Right.
Um, Boston's dropped off. I don't think Buffalo, Detroit looked good against Toronto last night, but that could have been as much Toronto as it was Detroit.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so, but I mean, I don't think Detroit's going to pass Ottawa. I think I mean, Tampa, Florida, Toronto is Florida with all their injuries. They've
Right.
had a
Right.
good start, but they've won games like 2-1, 3-2. Like if they're going to play those kind of games all year, that could be stressful. They played a lot of hockey. Is that going to catch up to them? Is Ottawa hungry? Ottawa got a good taste of it last year. They didn't beat Toronto in the playoffs, but they sort of fared fairly well against them
Right.
and put a
Yeah.
good showing up. So they're taking that kind of progression that you sort of see with teams that eventually get to the. I mean, it's like Florida. Florida had 2 or 3 years of like not quite getting out of the first round or having a good first round, but not a great second round.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only team that hasn't done that in the Atlantic is your Leafs.
Yes. Yes.
They haven't seemed to learn those lessons that other teams have learned. So, but we'll see
Yeah.
how Ottawa does. And again, I think Pinto will be an interesting piece to watch there to see what he's able to sort of provide for them. And if again, if they give above average third line play, I think that's going to launch them into the top three in that division.
Well, good stuff. I like Pinto and Ottawa's a good up and coming team. Good pick. We've got about 5 minutes left here, and
Oh, geez.
a brighter, even better team, unfortunately. And so I'll be interested to see who you pick off this is Montreal. I think that they are just the epitome of just bright sparks all over the place and young guys growing up together.
Well,
It's
and
going to
I
be
know
awful to watch them pull
uh,
this together.
offline I'd thrown a couple names out to you, but um, after sort of watching some highlights last night, the guy that I'm going to be sort of tracking on Montreal for the rest of the year is Zach Bolduc,
Oh,
who
okay. I don't know.
Montreal traded. So they had a young defenseman named Logan Mailloux,
Yes,
who
yes, he
who
got this. Yeah, the
he, he
crime.
he
Yeah,
yeah, he had the
yeah.
unfortunate video incident in Sweden. Unfortunate that he did it, and then
That he's a
yeah.
moron that he actually did that. And yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways,
well, I mean, young guy made a mistake, has paid the sort of probably the legal and the reputational price for that. But they shipped him off to St. Louis, and they got back a
right,
young guy named Zach Bolduc,
right, right.
um, who he's got 3 goals. He's scored a goal in each of Montreal's first 3 games.
Oh wow. Okay.
He's playing top 6 minutes.
Right,
So I think that when they got him, the initial thought was that he'd be a third line kind of guy, and maybe like an Alex Newhook would end up be playing
right.
second line minutes. But
He's
it
fighting his way to the
looks
second
to
line.
me, Bolduc's been playing second line minutes. He has a power play goal, so he's getting some power play time.
Wow.
I haven't watched all of Montreal's games. I've just sort of seen some highlights.
Right, right,
But I mean, it looks like he's getting his ice time. Looks like he's getting second line minutes. And again, if that's the return they get back in trading Logan Mailloux,
pretty
so
good.
they're trading from a position of strength, right? Because they've
Right,
got Hudson, they went out and got Dobson. Matheson's still productive I mean, he was a sort of top pairing guy last year. He can end up either pairing up with Hudson again and providing a little bit of that sort of defensive responsibility. But
right,
Montreal's got a couple other guys. I mean, David Reinbacher's coming up. Caden Gooley's he scored last night. He's playing well.
right,
Like trading from defense position of strength in defense to get a guy like Bolduc, who I think they honestly saw him as kind of a third line uh, penalty killing
right, right,
35, 40 point guy. And he's come in and he's looking great. And again, if they can add another young player to that growing list, I mean, this if he's playing well, it's going to give them a chance to sort of ease Demidov in sort of more gradually too. I mean, all the buzz was about him being the Calder favorite, and he still may end up being. But like the
Kaprizov 2.0.
well, I mean, the nice thing about like having bringing a guy like Bolduc in, like he's sort of fits their age profile
Right,
for what they've got going on, but it's also going to be having a young guy like that. So it's not like some veteran that Demidov is sort of just bumping down the lineup. This is a young guy who's also hungry
right,
for minutes.
right,
So I think it's going to be it'd be good for the team as a whole. He fits their profile, and he looks like he's a great fit for that team. So that's somebody I'll be watching. Who probably again outside of Montreal isn't getting tons of talk,
right. Good
but
pick. I had no idea this person existed, so good stuff. But we have a minute left, and so I'm going to ask you whether or not we can spend it on your thoughts on Lane Hudson. He's having some difficulty signing a contract here. I realize he's RFA, so he doesn't have any leverage, but does this impact on their ability to sort of keep the band together as all these kids need big contracts coming up?
well, I mean, again, that's the nice thing about having all these young guys who are still on ELCs is you're going to be able to ease that in. I mean, the thing for Hudson, Calder Trophy winner, he's seeing all these other guys like Luke Hughes, who's a couple years further along, but
Yeah,
Luke
yeah.
Luke Hughes signs for like $9 million a year.
Luke
Or
Hughes
no,
is a
eight.
foot taller than he is,
He's
though, isn't he?
he's not a foot, but I mean, but Luke Hughes just signs a big contract. Jackson
Yes.
Lacombe, who had one good year, signs a big contract.
You got to
Um,
pay for size though on defense. This little water bug stuff, can it last?
well, I don't know. Quinn Hughes
Quinn Hughes
is
is 4 inches
not overly
taller
tall.
than him. 4 inches taller
Quinn
than
Hughes
him.
is
That's
not
it.
4 inches taller than Lane Hudson, but well, I mean they're going to end up signing Lane Hudson,
Yes, of course.
and
Yeah.
they'll they will sorry they will
No,
uh and they'll end up having to pay for him. And again, this is where a guy like Matheson might age out, and they'll end up moving on from his salary. But I mean, Dobson's also like if for some reason they can't sign
10 seconds
Hudson,
left.
if they can't sign Hudson, they got some insurance with Dobson there. So Montreal is well set up, but they'll sign Hudson to a good deal.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the
Okay,
review. Thanks,
no
buddy.
problem. We'll
Talk
talk
to you next week.
for sure. Bye.
Okay. Bye.